Tuesday. Y'all hear that? Oh, wow. Y'all hear that? We have a nice, thundery, scary, terrifying morning today, and that's partially why I have a very special guest on the program. She is panting and shaking in my arms because of all this thunder and lightning. That's right. Wow, I don't need that. We have Tish here today. Say hello, Tish. She is wearing a thunder vest, which wraps her up and makes her feel more comfortable during these, really nasty. It's apparently monsoon season in New Orleans, and in the South more generally. When it goes from spring to summer, basically just rains horribly and heavily all the time with heavy winds and very scary, sideways, rain. For those of y'all who don't live in the South, it is quite terrifying. But yeah, how's everybody doing today? We got my mic volume's low. How about that? Is that better? Is that better? Is that better? How about that? Is that better? Better? Thank you. Okay. Wow, it is definitely thundering super loud. So it's gonna be an interesting show. Tish is still sitting in my lap. She is shaking like an absolute leaf right now. So that's just gonna be what today's show's like. It's gonna be one of those. Is the mic volume better, G Wolf? But yeah, I got a lot of stories for today. Not always good ones too. I mean, there's just absolute violence happening, being done to Palestinian people out there in Palestine. Joe Biden has decided that actually he's just going to take the entire bait on the Republican sort of small business tyrant. Nobody wants to work anymore. You can hear me with a sound bed? There's a sound bed? What? Anyway, that's just thunder. If you're talking about the sound bed being thunder, that's just thunder at my house. It's just absolutely insane out here right now. Yeah, I should be telling spooky stories, and I should have a fire and stuff like that. I need some spooky music. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's, I guess, get started. We can do a couple stories. We got a couple fun ones. Yeah, the My Pillow guy is at it again. Jeff Bezos bought a super yacht. So let's get into it with Palestine. So let's take a look. I have a nice video for us to take a look at. Professional operation here, folks.
In the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Gaza's health ministry says that 9 people have been killed. Calm now appears to be prevailing for the moment. This a live shot from Gaza. Earlier, Hamas fired a barrage of rockets from the Strip. They were launched in response to a group called Israeli Aggression in the Al-Aqsa compound. Israel is hitting targets across Gaza with artillery. Earlier, the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, Islam's third holiest site, was the scene of a violent...
I don't want this to be something that gets me clapped for DMCA, so I'm going to play the audio without some of the video when that live stuff's playing, because I don't want there to be horrible violence and blood and expose y'all to that, and I don't want to get clapped for TOS.
Israeli crackdown. These pictures are from inside the mosque. Israeli forces firing rubber-coated steel bullets, tear gas and sound bombs at Palestinian worshippers. And that's the second time that Israeli forces have stormed the mosque since last week. And these pictures are from in and around the compound which houses the mosque. Israeli security forces targeted Palestinian protesters who were standing guard.
So,
latest numbers from the Palestinian Red Cross are that more than 330 people have been injured. Speaking earlier, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the security forces for supporting what he...
So, basically what's happening is in parts of, you've seen it, so you know what it looks like, right? In parts of Palestine, specifically in one neighborhood, uh, the people from, Israel, thug army of the IDF are just evicting people from their homes and kicking them out, with some like legal fake veneer, saying that like y'all are, y'all don't have the proper paperwork for this house, so get the hell out of here. And then at the same time, they're attacking some of the most important mosques in Palestine right now, which is during the month of Ramadan, which is one of the holiest months. It really is kind of shocking, the fact that that they're doing this, and two, that they're going to get away with it like they always do. Let's keep watching.
Called a just struggle
Hundreds
at
injured.
upholding law and order.
A struggle is taking place in the heart of Jerusalem. This is not a new struggle. This is a struggle between intolerance and tolerance, between law-breaking and violence and law and order. The struggle is
law
not
and order.
new.
So,
because
like Benjamin Netanyahu, who's the prime minister of Israel, basically just just is absolutely 100% behind this. He makes up every possible conspiracy to sort of turn the script around and make it seem like Israelis are the victims here, and the Palestinians who are being bombed with rockets are the aggressors.
it has transpired over Jerusalem and the heart of Jerusalem for centuries. Since the rise of the monotheistic religions, for years, one side ruled and excluded the two others. And sometimes they changed, and the same thing happened. You can say that in the long history of Jerusalem, only under Israeli sovereignty since 1967, we are witnessing a continuous, stable, secure period in which we are working to ensure freedom of worship and tolerance for all.
And they always do that thing too. People like Netanyahu, they basically just say, "Oh, this is violence that's been happening since the beginning of time, and we're making things more stable here," which is complete and utter BS. It's very obvious that like what they're doing over time. If you look at the map of Israel and Palestine over the past since 1967 rather, basically the amount of space that Israel has taken up and pushed people out from both the West Bank and from Gaza has been huge. And if this current trends continue, there will be no more Palestine. There will be no Gaza. There will be no West Bank, and it will just be, it'll just be complete. Like, people are being totally and utterly ethnically cleansed from the region, and people who are, who are not Jewish, who are Palestinian Israelis, are people who live in that area who are under the rule of the ethno state of Israel, are given less rights, and it's horrible. There's hardly any Palestine left, right? And again, keep in mind that these attacks, and these, you can call them evictions, but I mean, it's attacks on people's homes and kicking them out of their homes is happening in the middle of the most holy month of Ramadan, towards the end of it, where things are going to ramp up as well. Hundreds injured.
Meanwhile, organizers of an Israeli march to commemorate the
many
1967 occupation of
including
East
children.
Jerusalem have cancelled their rally. There have, however, been smaller groups of
Oh my
settlers
God,
and
what the
right-wing
hell is
activists gathering on the streets. But the main march, involving thousands of people, has been called off. Al Jazeera's Nida Ibrahim is live in Ramallah for us in the occupied West Bank. But first, let's speak with Harry Fawcett, who's outside the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. Harry, a lot for you to draw together for us here. Let's start with 6 o'clock local time, when, as you were on air raid sirens began to sound there in central Israel.
Well, that's right. And if we wind the clock back a little bit before that, there was
it's really difficult to get good news on this, like any kind of reliable reporting on this, because I can't necessarily say that all of this is going to be perfectly well articulated. I just want to put that out there right at the beginning, because there's just such a pervasive and coordinated, attempt to sort of portray the Israelis as though they're the the common sense actors that are just defending their own borders and sort of like balancing out a lot of the horrors, or making excuses for a lot of the horrors that the Israeli government and the IDF are dishing out to people. Yeah, Al Jazeera is one of the better ones, I suppose, but I just wanted to sort of put that out there as well.
A warning from Hamas's military wing that if Israel did not withdraw its forces from the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, known as the Temple Mount to Jews, if it didn't withdraw from Sheikh Jarrah, the neighborhood in East Jerusalem at the center of this eviction dispute, if it didn't release the people it had detained during the course of the day.
But even like that, calling it an eviction dispute is like he just did. Like this is gonna be ticky tack, I guess. But like even in purportedly more better outlet or whatever, like Al Jazeera, which is probably true. Like there is just this sort of tendency in media to sort of use language that sort of removes agency and responsibility from time to time, which it's more of a media convention probably than anything else, but it sometimes muddies the water instead of making things more clear.
And come 6 o'clock local time, there would be a price to pay. That price came in the form of 7 rockets that were fired towards the Jerusalem area. One of them was intercepted, 6 fell in open areas. Now, this is a very rare event. For all of the escalations and rockets we've seen out of Gaza in recent years, it's not thought of it happens in this part of Israel, or rather in the area to the west of here, which is around the Jerusalem area. There haven't been rockets targeting that for several years. So that's a major escalatory step. As far as the Israelis are concerned, there will...
Good morning, Ginny. Now, that's a... I don't know. He's doing balance in the sense that, like, he's saying that the, Palestinians who are shooting rockets are doing the escalation, which is, I mean, it's hard to sort of like take that very seriously when the balance of power is so extremely out of whack. And considering what is happening, again, like if people are being removed from their homes, it's hard for me to say, well, these people shouldn't fight back in some manner. And again, these are like homemade rockets. They're not particularly like, it said 6 got through. There was probably some house damage. I don't think any Israelis were injured. And in most situations, I mean, Israel literally has a system called Iron Dome where they can just shoot rockets out of the sky with other rockets. So, I mean, the balance of power in this sort of situation is totally like out of whack here.
Will be a response to that. The Israeli military is saying that there will be several days of fighting in and around Gaza. They are ruling nothing out, including targeted assassinations of leadership. They're not ruling out a ground campaign either. The fact they're saying several days also carries with it perhaps a suggestion that they're trying to put some kind of a time limit on it, but it's very difficult to do that once these escalations start, because whatever the Israelis do is likely to bring a response from inside Gaza as well. Another thing to tell you about a serious explosion, deadly one inside northern Gaza. This is during the time that there are Israeli airstrikes going on. Indeed, the Israeli military showed a video of a strike from above saying that it had targeted a cell, a terrorist cell, as they called it, a Hamas.
I'm sure as long as the news is in English, it will have an Israeli slant, even when they try to be fair. That probably so. I mean, yeah. And it's always, every single time, they also will say that like the Israel government will justify, bombing people's homes or whatever and say, oh, that was a terrorist cell. You know, that was a terrorist cell. That was a target. They're using neighborhoods as human shields. You know, people, you know, citizens and as human shields. So it's just like it's never, yeah, it's never really balanced, right?
This one inside northern Gaza, targeting three
That's why you don't pay taxes.
what they said were terrorists. However, there was also an explosion in Beit Hanun, which killed 9 people, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, including 3 children. Now, initially there were reports that that was an Israeli strike. There have also been sources suggesting that it could have been a malfunctioning ordnance of some kind from within Gaza. It's extremely unclear as to exactly what took place there, whether the video that's been tweeted out by the Israeli military refers to the same incident or not. Hopefully we will get some kind of clarity. We are seeking that from the Israeli military to see if they can rule out that they were responsible for what the Palestinian Health Ministry says is 9 deaths, including 3 children.
And after a day of more violence there in occupied East Jerusalem, has the cancellation of this march to commemorate the 1967 occupation of East Jerusalem done anything to diffuse tension?
Yes, it's strange, really, after these days and days of building pressure and tension, reaching this boiling point in the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound earlier on Monday. Now that we're on the verge, potentially, of a very major escalation between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, the situation here at Damascus Gate, on the fringes of the Old City, is the calmest that it's been for some time. I think...
Well, you're going to be a father, Jenny? What's going on here? Say more.
To some extent, because of the decision to cancel this march. Monday was always worried about as a potentially very combustible day because of the march carried out traditionally on this day by Jewish Israelis, particularly religious nationalists and far-right Israelis.
Yeah, this is a far-right march that got canceled. Like this is like the MAGA of Israel, who basically are going to, like, they basically had a march plan that would sort of commemorate the time that they, you know, invaded and sort of went to war with Palestine, at least at the beginning. It really like the foundation and sort of immediate wars that were declared. It's actually kind of really shocking, like, knowing this history.
Celebrating the 1967 capture of East Jerusalem, what they call the reunification, what Palestinians consider to be, and international law considers to be, the military occupation that began here in 1967. If that had been allowed to go on through the Muslim quarter of the Old City, there could have been very serious exchanges of violence between the two communities.
A giant march happening in the middle of all of that, happening in the middle of the evictions and the rockets and the, you know, burning of the mosques and all this stuff. Good Lord.
Real possibility up until the last minute. The Israeli security establishment seemed to go back and forth as to whether they were going to allow it to take place. In the end, at the last minute, they decided no. That does represent some significant setbacks as far as Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli right wing is concerned. Jews were not allowed access onto the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, the Temple Mount, on this important day for them. They've also stepped back on this front. They've cancelled a court hearing that was due to take place today, a Supreme Court hearing on the evictions at Sheikh Jarrah, just a short distance away from here. And yet we have this potential major escalation taking place as a result, partly of what we've seen throughout this month of increased tensions. And of course, there was what took place, the very violent scenes that we saw on the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound itself earlier on Monday.
Al Jazeera's Harry Fawcett there, live in occupied East Jerusalem. We heard from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a short time ago. Well, the Palestinian leadership has also been reacting to the heightened tension. Let's bring in Nida Ibrahim, is live for us in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. So, Nida, what has the Palestinian leadership had to say today?
Earlier on Monday, the spokesperson of the Palestinian presidency, Nabila Bourdain, has said that Israel is challenging the U.S. administration that is trying to calm the situation down, and it's also challenging the international community.
It is interesting because, the Biden administration, I guess, is trying to at least posture themselves to like position themselves to look like they're like trying to chill everything out here. Now, does that have anything to do with like cutting U.S. aid to Israel? Does that have anything to do with taking a stand against them in the UN? Well, no, it's just like, please stop. Please stop.
When it comes to the point of the international community, we've had a chat with the PLO's executive committee member, Ahmed Majdalani, who says that the international community's response and reactions weren't strong enough to enforce Israel to calm the situation down. And he says that the condemnations aren't enough when it comes to that serious escalation. We've also heard from different Palestinian officials, including a top aide to President Abbas. He tweeted saying that the Palestinian leadership is going to convene and study what options they have to confront the Israeli escalation in occupied East Jerusalem. But that has been met with a lot of criticism in the street, where people say that they've been calling for Gaza to respond, and they've seen a response from the military wings of Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, while the Palestinian Authority is still studying what to do. These sarcastic remarks, we've seen them a lot on social media. And there is some feeling that the Palestinian Authority can do more, but isn't. But when it comes to Palestinian officials, they would tell you that they are seeking the international community. They want the UN Security Council, the Arab League, and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to deal with the situation and kind of put pressure on Israel on that regard. We've also heard from the Palestinian Prime Minister, Mohammed Shtayyeh, who condemned the escalation. Let's hear what he had to say in the beginning of the weekly government meeting.
I hold the Israeli government fully responsible for what the worshippers were exposed to in the blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque, and I warn of the consequences that will result from such incursions, as well as attempts to evacuate the people of Sheikh Jarrah, the original owners of the land, from their homes.
Yeah, and it's really important to remember that this is like it's part of an ongoing sort of just pushing out, and I mean very easily can be described accurately, I think, as an ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from the region. And this is a region that they occupied prior to 1967. Now, is there a possible solution to this problem? I mean, it has to be equal rights for all citizens in the area. And as of right now, the fact that basically, the Israelis just, beat the shit out of the Palestinians fight back a little bit, and the Israelis use that as justification to beat the shit out of them more and over again, until every now and then it'll chill out, and then you have to fire it back up again. It's just a never-ending cycle of aggression and violence, and again, too much of this balancing of responsibility, balancing of what the powers are, and it really benefits it doesn't benefit Palestinians for damn sure. It just kind of motivates the Israeli government, because there's no downside in terms of nobody's going to actually do anything to them, because they have the U.S. on their side. There's no reason for them to stop, essentially. So I mean, the U.S. is absolutely 100% responsible for this, because they won't do anything to stop the the Israelis from this advance, and yeah, I mean, how many millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars of aid does the U.S. give to Israel?
I call on the international community to intervene immediately to stop these horrific violations and to provide protection to the citizens of the Palestinian territories.
Yeah, the job of the ICC, only persecute people who commit war crimes if they're from poor countries, yeah.
Especially in the city of Jerusalem, which is undergoing ethnic cleansing. Today, Jerusalem is restoring the glow of the cause.
And what of the people of Ramallah, Nida? How have they been reacting to all of this?
Well, throughout the past 24 hours and even before that, we've seen lots of spontaneous protests all across different cities from the occupied West Bank, including protests here in Ramallah, where we've heard people chanting slogans in support of those in East Jerusalem and Sheikh Jarrah, chanting for freedom for Palestinians and for them not to be evacuated from their houses. But we've also seen many denouncing the Oslo Agreement. This is the agreement that has been signed between the Palestinians and Israelis, or rather the PLO and the Israelis, that allowed for the establishment of the Palestinian Authority in the 1990s. And there is a growing feeling among Palestinians that the Palestinian Authority isn't doing much when it comes to their life under occupation. So we've heard also calls for protests from Palestinians who want these protests to go to confrontation points near near Israeli military checkpoints and illegal Israeli settlements, to kind of confront with the Israeli military, because they know that although they can't go to Jerusalem, it's surrounded by Israeli military checkpoints. They need prior permits to be able to enter it, and some of them never get it. But they believe that it's important for them to voice their anger. Their cause is the same cause. They all believe that they're suffering under the Israeli occupation, and that's why they want to have their voice heard, and they want to voice their anger.
Yeah.
Al Jazeera's Nida Ibrahim report.
And yeah, I don't want to like pretend that I'm an expert on this particular issue or the region or anything like that, but I do think that this is important to cover, just because it is such a huge human rights situation. I would encourage people to keep an eye on what's going on with this through sources like Democracy Now. Al Jazeera seems to be fairly decent, at least in most, but to be critical and make sure that again, remember that the Israel is the aggressor here, and that's what the most important thing is. It's not a question of like anti-Semitism or whatever. It's a question of we have a state that is, essentially like a religious state that gives that essentially is doing an ethnic cleansing. It is doing, it is removing people from their homes, and it is burning down their mosques. And this is something that's, regardless of who's a part of that, who's doing that, it's wrong. And we need to have solidarity with the Palestinian people right now who are constantly under attack. And I guess that's it. Whew, that's a heavy one. I hate I hate getting that heavy. But vibe check, everybody. How we're doing today? Western international councils would never go against Israel. So far they haven't. There seems to be. There has to be at least some point where they get they go beyond the pale, right? Maybe not. I don't know. And I hate to put it like this too. But even Joe Biden back in the 90s has been put on as a on the record, essentially saying things like, if Israel didn't exist, we would have to invent it so that we could essentially use that as a sort of proxy to to essentially project influence in that region. Here's Tish. She's still shaking, by the way. She's very cute, but she's very scared. She hasn't moved off my lap. Yeah, heavy. But yeah, congratulations to Ginny, choosing a very interesting time to announce that they're having babies. But there you go. But yeah, cool. Let's move on to some other not great news. Joe Biden is at it again. He decided to take the bait of the hardcore right wing in America. Occupation Palestine is the worst human act probably ever. 75 years. The interesting part about that is it's so easily comparable to apartheid South Africa, and looking at how rolling out things like BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions, which is the idea to not use or not buy products that were produced in colonies, essentially colonized land from that was Palestinian, to divest from holdings in the same situation and sanction the Israeli government for doing that, essentially, has been something that was really effective in eliminating the apartheid state in South Africa. And when those same things get rolled out, those same sort of tactics and same ideas and same things get rolled out, they're basically sort of pigeonholed as anti-Semitic and smeared as anti-Semitic, which, I mean, I can't think of anything more peaceful than, a boycott, an organized boycott, just choosing not to use a certain set of products. And also, I mean, there's places in the United States where, especially if you work a public job, essentially you have to sign a contract saying that you're not going to be, that you're not going to participate in things like BDS, which is like an absolutely 100% violation of First Amendment rights. But and it's always kind of rolled out by either right wing or, I mean, even some Zionist Democrats, be they Texas is like that. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just horrible that happens. Like teachers in school have to, sign essentially a contract or sign some kind of a document saying that, a condition of your employment here is that you will not participate in the BDS, which is, it's ridiculous. What does that have to do with you being a teacher? And the fact that it's coming from, the state, that's almost, I mean, that's a huge violation. Anyway, this story is going to keep going. I'm not sure how much of it I'm going to cover. I might try and get a guest to talk about this a little bit more clearly and intelligently than I can do. I have limitations, and this is one where it sort of shows that I just don't know all of the facts and the dynamics on the ground other than the broad ones, if you know what I mean. So I admit that right here at the front. But I do also understand that the Israeli government and the IDF are the aggressors here. That part is imminently and very, very clear. They don't even really support that one guy they think was born there 2,000 years ago. Yeah. And also that guy was Palestinian. All right, folks. Here's Joe Biden basically capitulating to the hard right wing and all of these small business tyrants and also these big business tyrants who just say that nobody wants to work anymore.
Unemployment, who is offered a suitable job, must take the job or lose their unemployment benefits. There are a few COVID-19 related exceptions, so that people aren't forced to choose between their basic safety and a paycheck. But otherwise, that's the law. I know there's been a lot of discussion since Friday's report, that people are being paid to stay home rather than go to work. Well, we don't see much evidence of that. That is a major factor. We don't see that. Look, it's easy to say, the line has been, because of the generous unemployment benefits, that it's a major factor in labor shortages. Americans want to work. Americans want to work. As my dad used to say, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity, your place in the community, being able to look your kid in the eye and say everything's going to be okay.
All right, so now he's moralizing around a job, which is not good. Now, he did do one good, decent thing. It seemed like, he said that a lot of the, at least he said a lot of the claims that people are making are about people like not trying to get jobs is false. But then he goes to moralize on the idea of like, oh yes, you know, working a job, that's, you know, looking your kid in the eye and say you worked a hard day's life, or, you know, or whatever the hell. That's just a bunch of bullshit. And I kind of think, and he I don't know. Let's continue.
Okay. I think the people who claim Americans won't work, even if they find a good and fair opportunity, underestimate the American people.
Yeah, he talks a lot about what a good and fair opportunity is, what a suitable job is as well. And yeah, it's just like, what is a suitable job? Is working at Burger King not for $9 an hour or $7.50 an hour, and you know, here in Louisiana where the minimum wage is lower, is that a suitable job? What is I mean, jobs that don't pay living wage, to me, at least in my opinion, are not suitable. So therefore, you should still qualify for unemployment. But the question of what is a suitable job is still sort of left to be, it's left undefined here.
So we'll insist that the law is followed with respect to benefits, but we're not going to turn our backs on our fellow Americans. 22 million people lost their jobs in this
Good morning,
pandemic
Ellie.
through no fault of their own. They lost their jobs to a virus and to a government that bungled its response to the crisis and failed to protect them. We still have 8 million fewer jobs than we did when the pandemic started. And for many of those folks, unemployment benefits are a lifeline. No one should be allowed to game the system, and we'll insist the law is followed, but let's not take our eye off the ball. Families who are just trying to put food on the table, keep a roof over their head, they aren't the problem. We need to stay focused on the real problems in front of us, beating this pandemic and creating jobs.
He always deflects when he could have very easily said the millionaires and billionaires that are. I mean, obviously, it's Joe Biden. He would never say that. But the idea, he never gets to root issues, and that's sort of like the annoying thing with this guy. You know, he just sort of always deflects, and he's just always going to be, you know, he will always be Joe Biden.
The law is clear. If you're receiving unemployment benefits,
a few people making money while not working is a bigger problem than spending $1 trillion on war. Yeah, and you know, like we were saying earlier, funding the Israeli occupation or supporting the Israeli occupation, tons of money goes to that. Money goes to unemployment. Oh, gosh, that's a problem. You know, small businesses are complaining. They're not even really having a problem. Well, they're not having a problem bringing in money. They're complaining that people aren't working. You know, that we cannot abide that. We need to make sure that we keep the value of labor low.
And you're offered
or the price you have to pay for labor.
Job, you can't refuse that job and just keep getting the unemployment benefits.
You see, he keeps insisting on this shit.
We're also working to overcome all the barriers that may be making it harder for people to get back to work. Child care, getting vaccinated, getting schools open. We're making progress on all these things.
Yeah, he's just rambling now. It's difficult for me to be surprised or even angry at this point. I just expect bad things. I mean, that's fair. I don't know. I have to sort of like, maybe it's like a copium thing for me, but I kind of have to at least view things like, I have to view that there can be a way to make things better, I suppose. But expecting bad things is not a bad approach. It's a good way to be sort of defensive about things, sort of generally. But I don't know. Okay, enough of this motherfucker. I do want to have a little bit of fun here. So Mike Lindell is at it again, the MyPillow guy. He's urging now targeting a specific Dominion employee, telling him to turn himself in for only 10 to 20 years in prison. So here's a video from Patriot Takes on Twitter. Let's go.
Close the gate, the cow. Dominion, it's too late to close the gate. The cows are out of the barn. Dominion, you did your best in Smartmatic to take our country through China. You did your best. You corrupt people. You tried to suppress our voice. You didn't. You failed.
God, he's all over the place instantly. He's screaming out cows being out of the barn. He's screaming about China. He's screaming about all kinds of stuff.
In Smartmatic to take our country through China. You did your best. You corrupt people. You tried to suppress our voice. You didn't. You failed. And I'm telling you,
My pillow is just a platform for
what's his
something
name?
bigger.
Is it Eric Coomer?
Eric Coomer.
Yeah,
Eric Coomer, baby. The Coomers are a problem.
press our voice. You didn't. You failed. And I'm telling you, you Coomers of the world. What's his name? Is it Eric Coomer?
Eric Coomer.
Yeah, Eric Coomer. If I'm you right now, I am, instead of going over and making deals at Newsmax, if I'm you, I'm turning myself in and turning the whole operation. So maybe, just maybe, that you get immunity and you only get to do, I don't know, 10, 20 years. I mean, you're disgusting and you are treasonous. You're a traitor to the United States of America. And you know what? I can say that just like I can about Brian Kemp and Brad Rassenberger. These are things that I have evidence of. The evidence is there. And it's sitting there. Well, Mike, why don't you turn it all in to the Supreme Court and bring
Does
it
he
to the
only have
FBI?
suits that make him look like a blueberry with a mustache, by the way? Like, every suit that he has is blue, right?
The evidence is there. And it's sitting there. Well, Mike, why don't you turn it all in to the Supreme Court and bring it to the FBI? Oh, it's getting to the Supreme Court, everybody. But we're going to let you, the people. That's what Frank's all about. We are going to dump it. We're not taking any chance that those 9 justices say, nope, we don't want to look at this because they told us early in November there was not enough to overturn the election. And we don't want to get involved because, somebody might be upset. Well, you know what? This wasn't around in November, December. This came on January 9th.
That's incredible. I mean, like, he basically just is targeting like one individual dude and just saying that this guy is the hinge point of the election. He literally did say like the Coomers of the world, right? I mean, I too am pissed at the Coomers of the world. So here we go.
Newsmax. So maybe, just maybe, that you get immunity. And I'm turning if I'm you right now.
Eric Coomer.
Yeah, Eric Coomers of the world. What's his name? Is it
The Coomers of the world.
Failed. And I'm telling you, you Coomers of the world. What's his name? Is it Eric Coomer?
Eric Coomer.
Yeah, Eric Coomer.
So yeah, My Pillow guy's having a normal one, having a good old time, screaming about Coomer. Yep, there we go. He's gonna be doing this bit probably until he's president. No, he's probably never gonna be. He's never gonna be the president, but he's definitely gonna find a way to turn this into a buck, and that's the whole real point of this. I mean, he cannot be this well, maybe he can, but he can't be this stupid, right? Like, he can't really be this out of control. He'll all be the president of your heart. Yeah, I know. That would just be like the perfect reality show. I would love it. I mean, how much worse could it possibly get? Part of you feels sorry for his wife and kids. I mean, yeah. But also they're going to be fine because they're millionaires, right? I mean, this dude is rich as hell. Like, I find it very difficult, I guess, to give too much empathy or whatever to the extremely wealthy people of the world. Like, and this is part of why, right? So Jeff Bezos, and see, I'll just walk right into my trap card. Just got fresh off of stepping down from being the CEO of Amazon. He just right on his way out the door, made sure to, do everything that he could to bust the Amazon union, which we will have an update on that tomorrow, by the way. Good Lord, so much is coming out about that. Cocaine psychosis, perhaps. But anyway, yeah, Jeff Bezos just bought himself a super yacht, folks. So, the businesses of the world, they can't hire anybody. They're very, 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 very sad. But the guy that got the richest off of the pandemic, workers are like unable to survive if not for this unemployment. But Jeff Bezos just bought a super yacht so big that it needs his own yacht. Incredible. Today in ultra business billionaire news, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos has purchased a modest 100-foot schooner as he looks forward to a quieter life and hours of reflection on the open seas. The world's richest man, LOL, got me. Oh, shit. Let's watch Jeff's SNL audition. Oh, God. The world's richest man is reportedly buying a boat, though that word feels inappropriately sensible for the monstrosity going. God, this is like sassy CNN. 417-foot super yacht that's so massive it needs its own support. It has its own support yacht with a helipad. The estimated cost, not including the boat's support boat, is $500 million, $500 million for like. This is one of those like things that make you want to like actually grab a pitchfork. The luxury yacht's Dutch manufacturer, Oceano, hasn't released many details about the vessel called Project 721. The company didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. $500 million is an inconceivable amount of money for most people, but it's just a small fraction of the $75 billion that Bezos gained in 2020 alone. Could you imagine, like, the idea, like, at a time where millions of people are unemployed, hours of reflection while making $1,000 per minute. Yeah, exactly. That's the low number. Hundreds of thousands of people unemployed. We're basically in the midst of the biggest recession since 2008. We are having, distribution of the pandemic, vaccine issues, but this motherfucker, is just busting unions and laughing his way to the bank. Amazon stock, the primary source of Bezos' fortune, rose a staggering 75% last year as the pandemic upended consumer behavior in the company's favor. And Wall Street, flush with easy cash thanks to the Federal Reserve, piled into the tech stocks. Yeah, billionaires collectively gained $1.1 trillion in 2020, making them 40% richer than before the pandemic hit. Like that's can he relieve himself on it? No, he's not peeing in bottles and pooping in bags on the yacht, I don't think. That's just for workers. He likely put his boat odor in well before the pandemic, but knows okay. This is like written as like Robin Leach or something is writing it. The U.S. boat sales hit a 13-year high last year. What? U.S. boat sales? Recent quarters for super yachts have been record-breaking, one analyst told Bloomberg. Makers of extravagant yachts can barely keep up. Oh, the yacht business is booming, baby. Oh, hell yeah. Everybody, you get a yacht, you get a yacht, you get a yacht. I want to know more about the yacht business. Roaring market for big boats. When completed, it'll be one. Okay, this is the same one. I want pictures. I want to see the giant yacht. How do I see the giant yacht? I'll look. If anybody, is that it? Is that the yacht? The EOS in Hong Kong. That's a big fucking boat. All right. Well, we're running up on the hour. And I did want to give one last Tish update. The thunder has abated quite a bit. She's still hanging. She's still being a good girl. She's not shaking quite so much. She's being good. They're getting their checks to buy yachts. Yeah, exactly. The thunder has abated. Tish is feeling a little bit better. Say hello, Tish. She sat in my lap the entire hour and barely moved. She's a good girl. So anyway, I will be back tomorrow. Oh, really quick, I want to make sure to plug this on the way out. Last night, I had a really great conversation with Brendan O'Connor. Brendan wrote an article. Yeah, baby puppy. Well, she's about 12 years old, but she's like super healthy. We had Brendan O'Connor on the show. We dropped it last night. I think we're going to do it as record it for the radio. Cut the audio and put it on the radio on next Tuesday. We talked about his article, When the Party's Over, essentially assessing the state of the left from the point of, since essentially the Bernie Sanders, 5-year war, as it was described by many. And sort of the way that, excuse me, the way that, since there seems to be no Bernie campaign and no sort of like central cohering force in the left right now in America, it leads to a situation where we kind of have completely disrooted things like force the vote, which, there's a different set of incentivizing forces for that. Things like the fact that you can make if you don't put it on the radio station, the IDs are going to be weird. What do you mean? The station ID? Oh, you mean when I clip them? Yeah, whatever. So I guess, it's worth checking out the article. I can link it right here. I think I've linked it in Discord, but I'll drop it in there again. But yeah, it's called When the Party's Over by Brendan O'Connor. He also has a book out, which I think is probably worth a little attention and energy. Here's a link to the video from last night. Y'all should check that out. Give it a like. And then here's a link to Brendan's article. Where did I put that link? There it is. Yeah, I'll drop it in Discord. I forgot to put it in there. Definitely check that out. It's worth a read. It's a long article. It's in the Baffler. But yeah, it's definitely worth your time. And beyond that, yeah, I think I'm gonna, on that point, dip it out. Yeah, G Wolf was there last night. Sorry I didn't get to your comment, but yeah, you said you're the only DSA member within like 200 miles. That's insane. What part of, you say you live in the west of Texas, right? There's got to be folks out there. But yeah, check it out. Brandon's a good kid. We actually had him come on another show that I used to do with a couple friends. But yeah, Brendan's awesome. And I really do want to get more guests on the show. I prefer talking to people than just sort of like sitting here by myself, sort of awkwardly poking at the news. I play off of people better. And anyway, yeah, I'm going to go check out Above It All right now, see what the updates are in North Carolina with the closest chapter is in Dallas. Wow. No, I don't know people in Dallas. I know people. Well, no, North Texas. I do know some folks out there. But still, that's 5 hours away. Oh, super last thing. Oh, almost forgot about this. The Valley Labor Report, good friends of the show, just put out there, and I'm going to share this link as well. It's a Facebook link, but I can drop a, if you don't have Facebook, that's okay. But the Valley Labor Report is holding a, I guess it's a rally. It's actually gonna be a multiple day fundraiser. That's what it is, for some striking mine workers out in sort of central Alabama, right around Tuscaloosa. The Warrior Met workers essentially have been having their pay cut over the past 5 years. Workers took a pay cut 5 years ago. Jacob's much better at describing this whole situation. He's much more close to it. But they essentially were being, they were in negotiations where management was telling them to take another pay cut. And the workers, thank God, walked off the job. So we're in the sort of position where the workers need as much, support, a fundraiser, so they can, get some money while they're on strike. Here is a link to that. Hopefully we can get GMC to participate in, excuse me, in this thing, because it's a good chance to show some solidarity, get folks in Alabama the support that they fucking need. All right, folks, that's a wrap for me. I will check y'all tomorrow, 8 a.m. Have a great day, everybody. Love you. Bye.